I'm so excited that we put Stratagears in this box. It's one of my very favorite things that we've ever invented, and we've never kitted it before and made it available to anybody to decorate their own Stratagears, and you get the chance to do it. So, let's take a quick look in this box at all of the parts and pieces that are in these bags, and then we'll talk about what you need to do to decorate it, how it's going to go together, and I'll walk you through assembly. Be careful when you're opening the bag. We've got a manual down here that's going the full width of the Stratagear, so you're going to want to be careful with that. And I'm just going to pull this off to the side right now. We've also got the gear set, but I'm going to start with opening up the parts for the box itself and talking about how this goes together. The hardware in this set is a screw bag with all brass screws. These are the ones that are going to be used to put the box itself together. A screw bag with different colored screws in it. Those are the ones that are going to get used for the game. So we can put those screws and these plastic nylon nuts aside. We don't even need to open them up until you're ready to play the game. A little bag with 4 little corners on them. And we'll talk about what those do in a bit. They're going to be used with our magnets. And if we look at my built game here, you'll notice these 4 little corners. So, obviously when you're doing your decorating, if you're doing something fancy inside, you probably want to make sure those corners are decorated in a specific color to match all of that. And then we have the box itself. And the box is 2 pieces. We've got these 4 sides that are going to wrap around and give us the lid. They go along with the game board itself. That's the lid to your box that's right here. And you definitely want to make sure you sand on the top of that lid, because that's going to make the gears spin much more smoothly. And sand and decorate the top and bottom of the lid. And then we have the box. Now the cool thing in the box is we've given you some really fun opportunities for decorating even on the bottom of the box. So here's your box bottom piece. This layer is the layer that goes in the middle of your box, and it's going to take once we put it together, we're going to take these 2 pieces and hook them in to put the box bottom on. So both of these surfaces are going to be seen, although not all of the bottom, but it's probably easier to decorate the whole thing. This is what your bottom looks like when it's done. So part of that's visible. And then we have our 4 box sides. One of the panels says Stratagears on it, and the other panels will allow us to connect to that and continue going around. So go ahead, decorate, make it all as pretty as you want to, and then come back to the video to do that. I am going to talk for a second about the gears. Your bag also comes with a set of gears that you'll want to open up and decorate as well. Make sure you sand on these gears. And also in it, there are a set of 4 little bars. Those get used as blocker bars in the game. And a set of 2 circles get used in the game as spacers. So those will get used too. And then the last thing to know when you're building your box is you'll notice that you've got these gears that are glued together. So I've got, for example, and you want to be aware of this when you're decorating, one of these gears that has a number 5 in the middle, and one that has a number 2, and the 5 and the 2 gear go together. And then I've got a second pair that's a 6 and a 3. That's my gear with the stars. So a 6 and a 3. And the 2 is that guy. And then the 7 and a 4 and a 1 are going to get put together in a stack. So as you're decorating, you may want to think about one set of 3 gears that you either want to specifically do something with in colors to make them all the same or to make them all different, and depend what you're doing. Now make sure you sand these well. The other thing to know about how that goes together then is if you're sanding and you get scunge in them, You can so you can't see the numbers. You can certainly blow on them. That'll help get the sawdust out. You can also use canned air that you can get a bunch of places, or if you've got an air compressor, you can use an air compressor to blow the sawdust out of those channels, because once you decorate it, you really want to be able to see the numbers on the gears. It makes the game much easier to play. So you've got a ton of time to spend decorating and playing with all your gears, and then come back to the video and I'll show you how to assemble the box, and then we'll do a second video on how to play the game. Now that you've got your Stratagears all decorated, I can't wait to see what you've done with it. We're going to start with assembly. And the very first step in assembly is going to require your magnets and your bag with the little 4 pieces in it, or the little 4 pieces that you've already opened up and decorated. I don't have to tell you to be careful with magnets. Please, please, please be very careful. These are neodymium magnets. They're very, very, very strong. Depending on which bag you got, you may either have a bag that has 16 little thin magnets in it, or 12 slightly thicker magnets. In either case, you should be good to be able to do this assembly. Opening these bags is such a pain. So I'm going to open it, and it's now stuck to my scissors. It's actually not bad. I'm going to leave it on my scissors for a minute. And we're going to go ahead and do the very first step. So make sure you get your glue out. Start with flipping one over to whatever you want the backside to be, and I'm going to put one little drop of glue on there like so. I'm going to take one magnet and I'm going to stick it down very carefully to the piece, and then magnets are so fun. Polarity is great. I'm going to take another one, put some more glue here, and stick that magnet to it. I love being able to throw magnets, and it really doesn't matter where it goes. Now, here's what's neat. I can now just take a magnet and set it on top, and you'll see that it's perfectly aligned. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a drop of glue on top of this. And I'm going to hold on to this so it doesn't fly out of my hands and my magnet doesn't go where I don't want it to. I'm going to stick a second magnet and glue those two together. And now that I've done that, I can glue those to the next piece of wood. Now, I'm not trying to glue onto that top layer. Remember that. We're just using that as our alignment piece. And now I can put this on. And now I have 2 sets of magnets all in place and ready to go. We're going to give that a second to dry. Now, I can do the same thing with a single magnet here. Make sure it goes on top where it lines up. And you don't put any glue to glue it down to the wood. That would be very, very bad. Put a dot of glue on top of that magnet. If you have the 12 magnet stack, you're going to do the same thing. 2 magnets go underneath each piece of wood. I'm building my little stack here. Dot of glue goes on top. If you don't know a lot about magnets, they do have polarity, so one side is the bottom and one side is the top as we do this, and we want to make sure these are all aligned the same way, so when you put your lid on, you can put it on any way you want it to go. Squeeze those together and make sure they're drying nicely, and see how I've got a nice separate piece. I'm going to let this one sit for a little bit longer. And no, don't put glue there. My next magnet on top. Put a dot of glue on that. Put one more magnet above that. Stick it down. Let it do its thing. Put one more dot of glue, nice sized dot of glue on top so this all sits together nicely. Squeeze. And then you can set those aside. You can even put the rest of your stack on top, and we'll need those when we start to put our box together and put our lid together later. So now let's look at the box. Leave the lid on the side for the moment. Here's our middle layer. Now, obviously, we want the pretty side of the middle layer up, so we're going to start with that. And we're going to look for the panel that says Stratagears. So I've got one of these that's labeled Stratagears. It really doesn't matter which side that goes on, but that's what we're going to start with, is our side that says Stratagears. The thing that makes assembling the box tricky is some of the pieces have a flat bottom like this, and some of the pieces have a bumpy bottom on part of them and have a flat bottom on a little of them. And then the Stratagears panel is the one that has bumps all the way across. What we're actually doing as we assemble this is we're building that little pocket for your instruction manual. So we want to put this one in place first. So let's open up our hardware. We're ready to start with the hardware box. There are a lot of screws in this, and I don't remember what the number is, but the instructions tell you. We're just going to separate our screws and nuts. They're all 3/8 inch, so you should be in good shape. And as usual, if you've built one of our projects before, we're just going to slide this nut in sideways like so. We're going to put our piece in place, and I always just find a spot that I'm going to use to put the glue on, and then while the screw is sitting there, I just put a dot of glue on the threads at the very end. Makes it really easy to just pick up and assemble. So for littler hands, this is a way I think that works pretty well. Everybody's going to develop their own set of skills for using this and doing this assembly. I am way right-handed, so the ones that I can't get to quite as easily are a little harder. Put my dot of glue on, and now I got the Stratagears panel on. So now what I have to do, and this is the part that's the trickiest, is the panel that has no writing on it is going, no bottom on it, is smooth across both sides, is going to go on the opposite side. So now we want to take these two sides, and the one that has the smooth section that's big is going to go away from the Stratagears panel. And the ones that don't are going to go towards the Stratagears panel. So I can put this panel on. That means the no side should be here, and I'm going to wait to put the screws in for a minute, and I'll show you why. But I also want to make sure that way you've got a chance to test and validate that you've done this right before you try building it the rest of the way. So now what you'll see if we look at the bottom is I've got these flat edge sections here, the long edge section here, and we've got enough room to set this edge on top. And if you don't do it right, and you don't test it, you'll end up with 3 of the walls on, and you won't be able to put the bottom on it, and you'll be very annoyed with yourself. So, we're going to do it that way. What we're going to do as we assemble it is we're going to also drop these little magnet panels you just did into the corners. So you'll see you've got room to put your little magnet corners into these holes. So I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 off for now. But I've added that magnet corner. I'm not going to have to worry about it when I do it. Drop this in, make sure everything lines up properly. Put this back on. Sometimes I am not coordinated enough. You can put them in and add the magnet corners before you screw the sides in, but it's always safest to do that first. Do my little gluey, which is sort of like Louie, but different. that's not in right. Probably easier to put in from the bottom, isn't it? There we go. Okay. It's Sunday morning and I just washed my hands and I can't do a thing with them today. Try this one more time. There we go. Screw, glue, into the hole. Getting glue on your fingers. As I've said before, the secret to dealing with glue on your fingers is to wait till the next day and get rid of it in the shower, or you can use fingernail polish on this glue. It's got enough acetone in it to work fine. So see, I've got a nice flat edge here, so I want to use the flat edged piece next. And I am going to do this the easy way and leave this hand stuck here. I'm going to wait and put that corner piece in until I've got this screw in, so I'm not dealing with fighting with it. And yes, this is why these videos are so long, because Laura is a klutz. Okay. One more bit of glue. Putting my nut in. The other thing you can do is this. It was in, it moved, it slipped out. Boy, I'm having trouble today. I might have to have the professor step in and do the assembly on this box and I'll talk you through it if I can't manage to get these screws in.
There's no professor here.
No Professor Steam here.
You don't see me.
Pay no attention to the man behind the camera. There we go. One more try. Let's see if I can get this one to work, and if I can't, I'm going to make him do it.
Steamy Tech agility test.
These are tricky because they're a little close to the middle, and you have to like be able to get your fingers in them. There. That one's not going anywhere now, darn it.
Famous last words.
I didn't say I wasn't going to drop the screw. Hopefully you guys are having a little easier time with assembly today than I am. Alright. Flat edge, flat edge. One more edge to put on. Now, because I put that in without having the magnets in, how am I going to make this work? Well,
it will work fine.
It will work fine. You've got just enough room here to pull them apart. Be a little gentle with it, and it'll slip into place nicely. I'm going to try this again, put this nut in here. If I can hold it over the edge, it works better. And if you've got too small a hands, you won't be able to do that. But I think I can manage that today. Slide that in like so. One little dot of glue will do ya. The interesting thing about super glue is it actually dries in compression. So if you leave some on just on a piece of paper, it'll take it a little while to dry. It'll get there, but it'll take it a little while. If you if you put it in compression with something, it'll dry much faster. Come on, get out, rotate to the correct direction, Mr. Screw. This is the last hard one. The rest of them will be easy because I can do them with my small, small hands. There we go. That's going to go in. Tighten that screw in. Make sure we put our other two corners in. Like so. And then we're ready to put the corner screws in, so I can drop these in really easily and go the rest of the way around and finish building my bottom box. And that's the hardest part, is getting that first set of sides on and making sure you got them aligned right. You can feel free to check it 5 or 6 more times in the process. How many times have we built ones that are not put together right, Professor?
You learn pretty quick after you build these a couple times. Wrong.
Wrong.
There's been many of these wound up in Scrap Mountain.
They're much prettier with the bottom on them, so make sure you assemble them right. We've got a couple of spare screws in your hardware set, so if you mess one of them up, you can always force it to come undone. Check it before you glue. Now, another little bit tricky part, and I'm going to show you another technique for getting these side screws in. At this point, we're going to put this bottom on, but now we got to get screws in where you can't actually hold them at all. So the technique I'm going to use to put these nuts in place is I'm going to set this sideways like so, and I'm going to slide the nut in and use gravity as my friend to hold it in place. And if it falls in, it's okay. You can always just hold it out the bottom. That's a great trick to learn for putting these together. So if it's something that's sideways, you can just kind of slide it in and let the box itself help you. I hope I don't want more glue on my fingers. And that lined up perfectly. So you can use gravity, and that will work fine. That's a way to get these screws in and aligned. And you want to make sure you catch that edge a little bit. And here we'll try it with the next one and see if gravity is going to be my friend or not.
It's the famous Steamy Tech gravity well.
Ah, yes. All right, and 2 more to do, and then our bottom box just has one last step. See? It doesn't like me today. Now, when you're doing this way, you want to make sure that you kind of angle the screw out a little bit as you do it so you don't lose your side view. One last screw to go here. Put my last nut on it, like so. And glue that and screw that down. Now, we got to do the inside and we got to do the magnets. So the box is built. We've got our little corners in place. Now we have to figure out how these go together. So, one of the sides has 2 holes in the bottom. It's got a narrow side and it's got a wide side. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to slide this in and go, that slot doesn't match that slot. So it can't go that way. So let's see if we think this lines up properly. If we drop it in this way. Sure looks like it matches good. So now I can drop this other piece in from the top and it should go in the slots. Now we do want to glue it down, so I'm going to pull it apart for a second here. And go ahead and put a drop of glue on it. You can alternately have chosen to do this part before you put the box together, but it's kind of nice to wait and do it to the end, in my opinion. The professor always does it the other way. Put my dot of glue on here, slide it in, lock it into place, and I've got a beautiful box with dividers so I can put my screws in their own place when I do it. So now we need to put the lid together. Putting the lid together is pretty easy, but these pieces can be a little delicate, so please be very careful when you do it. Slide this up like so, and we're just going to quickly go around the sides and add our screws and nuts. Now, if you want to make the sides a little stronger, you may want to actually glue these sides on as you do them. In that case, you just put a little bit of glue along these teeth. By doing that, you make the side a little stronger and stay together a little better. Either way, completely up to you which way you want to do that, but I definitely wanted to make sure you knew you were allowed to glue them together. You can glue the sides on any of these boxes. So long as your screws are glued in, though, you don't have to. We've tried to make them easy enough to save you from having to glue all of the sides in and all of the pieces and parts in. Do the next one here. The other thing you'll notice as you're doing this is that it does give you just a little bit of tension in, which is okay. We're going to be gentle with the wood as we put it together, and we'll pull it back out, but it will kind of feel like you're going in at an angle as you do it. So now we're ready to put this corner back on. You see we've got our screw, and I'm actually going to do the corner first, I think, only because I can. Looks like that one's leaning out a little bit. Force that in. How many things can I drop today? trying to keep this all in the camera view is interesting and challenging too. Two sides. Like I said, these sides are just a little easier because the screw pieces are small enough and the wood pieces are small enough. It's much easier. Now our construction edition box that you may have heard about goes together very much like this, except you don't have to worry about the glue. It's all these lovely nylon nuts, and you can just put the pieces together and take them apart as many times as you want. And the gear sets that are slowly going to be rolled out as part of Construction Edition are actually the same gear patterns, or at least the outside gears are the same as the Stratagear gears. So once you learn how the gears go together for this, you'll get a sense of what kind of fun things you'll be able to do with Construction Edition gears. Put these two together here. And 4 more screws. If for some reason your screw count is off, you do have some spares in the spare screw kit. But it certainly shouldn't be. We use a thing they call a counting scale to count the number of screws in your sets. And it's pretty cool. We'll do the 2 edges here, corners here, and then the box will be done. And our last step is putting those magnets on so that the top will glue magnet to the bottom and you don't lose any of the pieces from the inside. Okay. Now, we've got a nice box, we've got a nice lid, and the last thing we need to do is get the lid magneted to the box. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, I'm using the thin magnets, remember, if you've got the set that has the thick magnets, you won't need to do this first step. And my first step is I'm going to stick all these magnets, one on each corner. And I'm going to put a drop of glue on the magnet. Remember, I didn't put glue on the wood. Don't do it. We're going to glue to the box top. And I'm going to glue these together. But by doing it on top of the existing pieces of wood, what I'm doing is I'm making sure my polarity matches all the way around. So now I've got stacks of magnets that are glued together, and the last thing I need to do is put a little drop of glue on top of all of them. They should be just above the edge of the wood at this point. So I've got a stack of a little bit of glue on all of them. I'm going to stand up to make sure I'm high enough, and I'm going to push down carefully on the glue on each of these 4 corners. And give it a minute, and now we cross our fingers. And hope for the best. And if I have done this right, I got 1 set. You can do it 1 at a time. You don't have to do all 4 at once. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over like this, and I'm going to set it on the side for now and let it dry. And trust that when I come back to it a little bit later, it will have dried and we will have managed to get the glue to stick to all of them. And if they haven't, then we can try it 1 more time, and they'll be a little thicker because the glue on the top of those screws will be thicker, and then we'll put a little more glue on them. Okay, and while we're letting that dry, I'm going to give you 1 quick little lesson in how to put these stacks of gears together. Remember the 2 and the 5, and the 3 and the 6, and 1, 4, and 7. So I'm going to go ahead and open my screw set that belongs to the game. And in your screw set in the game, you're going to see a bunch of different things. You're going to have black screws. These are the 1/2-inch screws that you'll use mostly when you're playing the game. You'll have little brass 5/8-inch screws. That'll let you work with 2-layer gears. And you'll have silver 3/4-inch screws that will let you play with the longest of the gears. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these to line my screws up. I'm going to use the long ones. And we don't want to get glue on the threads. Getting glue on the screw threads would be bad. So I'm going to flip them upside down. Put the screw in from the bottom and put glue around them here where I'm least likely to accidentally get glue on my threads. And I'm going to push the 2 of them together, and I want to get them lined up like this, so the 4 and the 4 line up, and you can do anything you want. Push them together and carefully lift my screw off. And then that really needs to dry. So we're going to set it aside. We definitely don't want that to come unglued. Depending on what you did for preparation on your wood, you might need to actually put a nut on the back of it to make sure that it stays solidly attached. I'm going to make that 4 line up too. Because you must have the screw gear stacks to be able to play the game at 2 and 3 layers. The fun thing about Stratagears is you can play it at multiple layers. Since the only number that matches on these 2, I think I'm going to have to make the 3 line up. And last but not least, I'm going to put the 7 on top. And we'll make sure that this lines up nicely. Like your numbers all line up, and we're going to set those 3 aside. Make sure that those don't drift apart and your centers aren't working. Now we see if my glue worked. And it did. So flipping it upside down and just letting it sit and dry is a great way to make sure the glue does the right thing. And because we built the stacks that way, the alignment will work so the polarity works across all the angles. So you now have a Stratagears game all built and ready to play. So when you're ready and you want to play, come back and watch the video on how to play Stratagears.